Well, good evening and thanks for joining us tonight here on News 20 on GTN. I'm Randy Gardner. We've got a great show for you tonight, very informative and informational. And joining me to my right, we have Pam Butke-Bolton, Champs Assistance Dogs. Glad you could join us, the Executive Director. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for having us.
To your right, we have Tim Lomar, the St. Louis County, or the St. Charles, I'm so used to saying St. Louis, St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney. Glad you could join us here on the show also.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about how Champs has partnered with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office to make these dogs available. And we joked before we went on the show that they're basically called the Courthouse Dogs. Explain what you do with Champs.
Champ Assistance Dogs actually train service dogs to help people with disabilities, and we also train facility dogs, like the one we'll be training for the courthouse, to help professionals, work in their jobs.
When you look at a situation like this dog walks into, explain to the average individual out there who, like myself, I have no animals, but everybody talks about the soothing effects that an animal, especially a dog, can have on not only a child, but any human being.
It's absolutely true. It's been proven that dogs can help reduce blood pressure, pulse rate, and just make people feel so much more at ease. The dog always provides unconditional love, and that's what people are wanting. And it makes a huge difference, especially for a child in a courtroom or a child advocacy center where they're talking about abuse. It's very difficult to do that. The dog is there to help them and provide love and comfort for them.
All right, Tim, let's bridge that gap now and talk about the connection, how you became involved with Champs.
Well, it started out just kind of as a good idea. And we know the inherent challenges that we have, especially with child victim cases. You know that while you certainly you're going to believe the child's version of the story, it's a different scenario to get them to come up in front of a jury or in front of a judge and tell that same story and tell it in such a way that it's credible. And there are a variety of reasons for that. Child witnesses just aren't mature enough; they're not developed enough to communicate, especially with such intimate, private, and almost always traumatic details. So that's always a challenge no matter what. So the idea behind the Courthouse Dog for us was just to be able to provide a way to give the child just kind of a temporary, maybe a little escape from the tension, just a way to sort of take their attention away from this traumatic event, even if just for a moment, to put them more at ease. And so that was kind of the concept behind it. And some other states had done some similar projects, and we thought, we can try this, and there's no reason why we shouldn't give it a try. And so far, it's been a great experience for us.
How does it make you feel to know that what you do on a daily basis is helping out in such a great way in the community?
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling, but really, I need to give the credit to the dogs and what they actually do for people. But it's amazing the difference the dogs and their skills can make in someone's life, both adults and children.
A little bit later in the show, we'll talk with Sissy Swift from the Child Care Center. She's the Executive Director. We'll get a firsthand feel on how these dogs actually really coordinate, per se, with the child and some of the reactions that she has from it. But when you, Tim, see the difference maybe of what you had previously done, and then you see a child with a dog, if you could put it on a scale to the layman out there on maybe like a 1 to 10, does it dramatically decrease, I don't want to say the fear, but the anxious level of the children?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but there's no question that it helps our child victims. I can tell you in a few instances where we've used the dogs, we've had similar cases in the past where we may just decide that this case is not one that we can prosecute. And the reason is most often because you just don't want the victim to have to relive the trauma and to go through this awful experience. So the occasions where we've used the Courthouse Dog, I can tell you without a doubt that if it hadn't been for the dog being there with the child victim, the results would have been likely different.
What has been some of the feedback from your peers and other individuals that have found out about the program?
Well, I would say it's a novel approach to the way we do things. And I think other people at first might have been skeptical. I heard some skepticism. And I suppose that's fine, but I think when they've seen some of the results that we've had, and we've talked to them about our experiences, that it really is a real thing. It's a real phenomenon, and it's something that, gosh, if it can help child victims in our cases, there's no reason it couldn't help child victims in every other case as well.
Has this process been thought about? Would it work for adults too?
Well, I think it would. I think, anytime you've got somebody, especially in my world, what we ask our victims, we ask them to do a lot. And what that means is not only do they have to report the awful scenario, the awful experience they had, which led to criminal charges being filed, but ultimately, if we're going to pursue those charges, they're going to have to be able to testify in front of a judge or a jury. So I think the human emotions being what they are, anytime you can sort of lessen the tension or give some sort of a release or an escape, I can't imagine that it would be a bad thing.
Now, Pam, I know the last couple of times I've called it CHAMPs. It is
Right.
Champ Assistant Dogs. I
Right.
saw the look on your face a couple of times. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Champ Assistant Dogs. Walk us through how you train these dogs.
Our dogs, when we first get the dogs, they actually go to live with a puppy raiser. And they usually will be there from about 8 weeks of age until they're about 16 weeks of age. Then our dogs will start their formal training, which we do in the women's prison in Vandalia, Missouri. The women offenders actually train the dogs their skills. We go up, our trainers go up to the prison once a week and work with the offenders, and it's a win-win. It's amazing the difference that the dogs can make for the offenders, and the offenders give so much back to the dogs as well. And we're trying to prepare the offenders for when they're released from prison, and they will have some skills that they can actually find some jobs. The dogs actually are trained for about 2 years before they're ready for placement.
What are they, a variety of different breeds of dogs, or are they all the same kind of dog?
Well, typically we use a lot of labs and golden retrievers, but Champ not only trains dogs for service, but we also have rescue dogs as well that come from shelters. We work with the Humane Society of Missouri, and their dogs will go up for a short training of 8 or 12 weeks, and then they're placed in a permanent home. Sometimes we find service dogs through our rescue dog program as well. But we've just found that Labs and Goldens are a little more flexible, and they adjust to moving around a little bit easier than some of the other breeds.
I don't want to ask a silly question, but I will anyway. Do the dogs understand that, I guess, what situation they're in when they're doing something like being in the courthouse with the children?
They truly do. It's just amazing when we prepare a dog for working with a person, and we actually go with a service dog, we'll place them with an individual. It's amazing how the dog immediately knows that that is their person, and they will go sit by them. In a nursing home, we walk in a room and a dog will actually pick out a person who is isolated and not communicating with other people and go up and be with that person. They immediately know what their job is. And the same thing with the courthouse, and they meet a child, they know that they're there to comfort that child.
Tim, as far as being the prosecuting attorney, a tough job per se in terms of dealing with situations like this on a daily basis. How do you, as a prosecuting attorney, handle the stressful situations that you're put in?
Well, it's not always easy. You have good days and you have bad days. We've got a variety of different scenarios that we have to deal with, obviously, and a lot of them are really difficult. And you have to just, from my perspective, and I think my team does the same thing, we realize that not only do we represent the victim in a sense on behalf of the state, but what we're doing here is something for the greater good. Not to sound too corny, but really, I mean, if you think about what we're doing here, it's ultimately up to us to see to it that the laws are enforced that keep our community a place where people want to live. And that's the case with any prosecuting attorney in any area, but that's the responsibility that's put on our shoulders. And so we take that seriously, and I think that is sort of what helps us get through some of these more emotional issues or some of these cases that might be more difficult than others to have to navigate through.
How do you see over the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5, this integration of Champ and the dogs? Will they become more fluent into the situation? Are you looking to try it with every case, or how does that work?
Well, I think we have to be patient. We have to recognize that any sort of change is going to be slow. But I think that what we have done is establish the precedent here, and we've shown that this is a program that can be very beneficial. Depending on the area where you are a prosecutor, you may have more of these cases than other areas might. But I think for those jurisdictions that have high volumes of child victim crimes or special victims crimes, this is something that they absolutely should explore, because this is something that can make the job of prosecuting a case that much easier and that much more efficient.
When you look at the dogs in terms of getting the dog, training the dog, is there an average cost on what the whole scenario costs?
It usually costs Champ about $15,000 to $20,000 depending on the time that the dog is in training, and that's an individual thing. Now, the dogs are placed free of charge with qualifying individuals or facilities.
When you, let's take a step back here. How many dogs, again, do you do per year?
Well, we actually place somewhere between 3 and 7 dogs a year. We right now have approximately 15 dogs in training, and we're getting a few more puppies in the next few months. So they rotate in and out of the prison, and then they go back to their puppy raiser to be socialized in the community, and then go back to the prison. It's sort of like on parole.
And what made you get involved in this in the first place? Where did this concept come for yourself?
I think as appealing as it is to everyone else in the community, it was that appealing to me. I've always loved dogs. I've always worked with dogs in nonprofits. But working with dogs and helping children and people with disabilities is just amazing. It's just a wonderful job, and it's something I want to do from now on.
To take a step out of what we're talking about, working in the the courthouse dog situation, when you talk about working with handicap people and blind people and things like that, it's got to be an incredible feeling to see them kind of move emotionally to that next level with one of these animals.
It really is. The dog can help so much with their life skills and self-confidence, and even children who are very young. Just having that added responsibility can make them feel so much better and so much more important and self-confident. The dog can do many things: turn the lights on for them, help them get dressed and undressed, bring medication to them. It's just amazing the freedom that it actually gives someone, and helps with mobility issues as well.
And for the general public out there who wants more information about what you do, you're right here in the St. Louis County area, actually right down the street here in Blackjack. Where can they find out more information?
We can go to our website, which is champdogs.org, or if you want to call the office, the Champ office, the number's 314-653-9466.
Sounds good. Tim, as we start to wrap this segment up, in terms of this being in St. Charles County right now, with St. Louis County, everybody in St. Louis County watching, this is something that can work all over the St. Louis area and all over the nation.
It is, because the crimes we prosecute, they're no different, really, no matter where you are. And the human emotions that are involved in being a witness in a criminal case, a victim especially, those are no different no matter what the case is. And so I think we've shown again that this is a program that works, and there's no reason that I wouldn't encourage other people, other colleagues around the country, around the state, to do the same thing.
Sounds good. Tim, you're going to stay with us. Pam, thank you so much for your time. Champ Assistant Dogs, we'll give you the information a little bit later here on the show to go to their website and find out information for yourself. Stay with us. Much more next here on News 20 on GTN.
After a car accident, Linda Davis needed CPR. Bill Hamilton needed temporary shelter when a fire destroyed his home. During an operation, Haley Reynolds needed a blood transfusion.
Excuse me, may I go into that room, please?
Next year, revenue growth again will be a focus. Top priority.
Thank you for giving me blood.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for saving my life.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own. After a car accident, Linda Davis needed CPR. Bill Hamilton needed temporary shelter when a fire destroyed his home. During an operation, Haley Reynolds needed a blood transfusion.
Excuse me, may I go into that room, please?
Next year, revenue growth again will be a focus. Top priority.
Thank you for giving me blood.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for saving my life.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own.
And welcome back to News 20 here on GTN. I'm Randy Gardner. Great show for you here tonight. Joining me to my right now, we have Sissy Swift from the Child Center, Executive Director. Glad you could join us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And to your right, once again, Tim Lomar, St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney. I've been, 25 years of talking about St. Louis. I apologize.
That's no problem.
All right, Sissy, let's talk about the Child Center and what your organization does for the community.
We are a child advocacy center, and as a child advocacy center, we do the forensic interviews for children who have been physically or sexually abused. We provide that service for 14 counties in northeastern Missouri. In the state of Missouri, there are an additional 15 child advocacy centers that are located throughout the state, and every county in St. Louis should have a child advocacy center attached to them. We work with a multidisciplinary team to provide those interviews, so we work closely with the prosecuting attorney's office, with law enforcement, with the children's division, with juvenile officers. All of those people are a part of the interview, so that if a child has alleged sexual abuse or physical abuse, they can have one interview. We can conduct one interview, have all those parties there at the same time, and they are able to listen to that interview through a closed circuit TV, and that child will not have to be interviewed additionally. So that reduces the trauma for the child.
And as I asked him about being a stressful job, I've done some work with your organization, and it seems to me like that is a very stressful job. I don't want to say sad, but you're dealing with sad situations all the time.
It can be. It's a very, very difficult job to do day in and day out, but it's also very rewarding. And I did not ever think that I'd be at a job where when we are able to prosecute someone with the assistance of the prosecuting attorney's office, when we're involved in that to the little degree that we are, we celebrate that. We celebrate that that child is safe, that that child has been heard, that that child's voice has been validated. So those are the things that we celebrate.
In terms of sheer numbers, and I'll start with you, Sissy, the numbers blow your mind when you look at 1 in 4, and walk us through those numbers. I think that will really shock a lot of people.
Yeah, statistics tell us that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by the age of 18. So that's roughly 20% of our population.
And when you deal with these situations, and we've talked about this, is that most of the time it's not someone from the outside, it's someone within the inner core of family or friends. Does that make it tougher? We'll start with you, Tim, and then we'll jump back to you, Sissy, of prosecuting and dealing with situations like this.
Oh, that's the hardest part, really, in prosecuting these cases, because, so you think about those numbers. So we filed 357 child victim cases, the large majority of which were either physical or sexual abuse. Now you think about the sheer numbers, just in our county, we have a county of about 380,000 people. Roughly a third of those are children or school age, children under the age of 18. You think about the number of cases that we were able to prosecute versus the number of kids out there. If you use the statistics that roughly 20% of our population is a victim, that just tells you there are so many more of these cases that just we don't ever find out about for a variety of reasons. But I think the biggest impediment is the fact that most often the offender is somebody who is either a family member or a close family member. And this is just an awful subject matter for anybody to talk about, period.
As an individual, how do you, if you suspect child abuse, whether it's within a family or your neighbor's house or somebody within this, how do you even broach that subject? Do you bring it up to the person? Do you bring it up to an organization such as yourself, to the police, to the school? Because it's very delicate, because if you're wrong, that can cause a lot of problems.
And that is something that Children's Division really oversees. And they have a process for that. If you make a hotline call, that hotline call will go to their office in Jefferson City. They will look at that, and then they will determine from that call if it's something that they feel should be investigated or not. If it is, then they'll send a team out. If that team goes out and sees, wow, yes, this really is something, then that will get to us. If they don't feel like it's anything, then there are some certain steps that they could put in place to watch that family. But our biggest thing is to have individuals call the hotline, because we don't have to determine if something happened. That is the job of the Children's Division.
And how traumatizing is it for the children as they come and they talk with you, and then it's being, basically shown, everybody can, seeing it and evaluating it. How stressful is it for them?
It's very stressful. It's very traumatizing. Again, that's one of the reasons why child advocacy centers exist, to reduce that trauma. In addition to providing those forensic interviews, we also offer therapy to all of our families, especially the children. We have an in-house therapist who will see the children and can talk to them and work through the trauma that is associated. They may be showing that trauma through various ways: bedwetting, nail biting, problems in school, substance abuse. So we have a therapy team that we have one in-house therapist, and then she works with the therapist that we also contract with externally.
Are kids able to overcome a situation like this? I mean, through therapy, or is this something that affects them lifelong?
We think that children can overcome this if they have the right tools in place to help them overcome it. And we've seen it time and time again.
Tim, these are cases when you deal with these, you go home and these things affect you in daily life.
Yeah, it's impossible not to. As a father myself, of course, you think about the father or the mother of that child victim, and you think, what could they be feeling right now? I just can't imagine that. So yeah, it is really difficult. These are probably the most difficult cases, because you've got children who just are not capable of protecting themselves, and when somebody violates that trust, it's a really sad situation.
Yeah, what amazed me the most when I heard those numbers, and I sat there and I thought, wow, I have 3 children of my own, and then you look at your circle of friends and everybody, there might be 100 kids in that circle, and you start putting those numbers in correlation, it's astounding.
Exactly, yes.
And it's not, I think we had talked about this before, a lot of this is not like that perceived picture. If you had somebody draw you somebody, okay, what does a child molester or abuser look like? These are people who live in your neighborhood that you go to school with. It's your neighbor maybe.
Yes, we have another program that we have at the Child Center is our prevention program. We go into all of the schools in the 14 counties that we work in, and we provide education to the children. We teach them about their body being safe. We teach them the 3 L's, which you have talked about, and that is that generally perpetrators are someone that you like, love, or live with, and we get that stranger danger picture out of their mind. That exists as well, but the majority of sexual and physical abuse cases are someone that you like, love, or live with.
Now, we talked with Tim and Pam in that first segment about the dogs from CHAMP. Explain how this correlates into your center and how you're starting to utilize them.
Well, we are so excited about the dogs. We are starting our training in the next couple of weeks so that we can get our facility dog. We're not real sure of the date. We have had the opportunity to work with the dog in a couple of cases, and just the way that that dog walking in and the child seeing that dog, they're coming in for a very unpleasant reason. And we have done things that we would try to prepare the child for walking into our facility because it's scary. And they think oftentimes they're going to a police station. And we are a very child-friendly center. Our atmosphere is child-friendly. And when they walk in and they get to see a dog and they just kind of melt and they just fall on the floor and they start rubbing and petting the dog. Can I pet the dog? And it just reduces the fear, the anxiety, all the concern, all the worry. The parents are excited that the dog is there. In the actual interview, children are able to just sit and pet the dog. It helps them focus a little bit more. They're more calm. They can sit. They answer questions better. It's just been a very nice partnership with Champs.
Do you see this as something that will continue, as Tim mentioned, to spread and gain wings, and eventually you're going to see this all over, and this won't just be a pilot program?
Yes, we would hope that that would be the case. I know some child advocacy centers across the country do utilize facility dogs. I think there may be one other facility in Missouri that is utilizing the dogs.
I'll leave the last statements up to you about overall what you see with this partnership, with this program, and how much it can help the community.
Well, as I listen to all of our discussions today, it just drives home the point. I think that if the community was aware, and I know they're starting to get aware, and we're just getting the word out, but there's so many more, I should say there's so much more we could do, and we're going to do that. But if they knew the value that this brings to not only our mission, our personal mission, Sissy's team's mission, but just the overall safety of the community, I can't help but think the community would absolutely get behind this. And it's so important because there aren't state funds that provide everything that they need. These are based primarily on private individuals and contributions from folks who support the mission. So we can always use more supporters, and I think that's something that, if anything, we really want to get the word out to the community, that this is a tremendously valuable program for the safety of our community.
And Sissy, talk about the Child Center.
Well, the Child Center, our mission is to assist children who are in need, and we are always excited when we find partners, people in the community who want to partner with us, who want to help children who have been sexually or physically abused. So any way that anyone finds that they could jump in and help out, we would appreciate.
And one more time, the date on the trivia night.
February 6th, Friday, February 6th.
Sounds good. Get those superhero costumes ready and meet us all out there. We'll all three be out there. We hope you enjoyed the show here tonight. We'll put the websites up here at the end that you can visit to find out more information about Champ Assistance Dogs and the Child Center. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. And thank you for watching tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on News 20 on GTN. Have a good evening.
After a car accident, Linda Davis needed CPR. Bill Hamilton needed temporary shelter when a fire destroyed his home. During an operation, Haley Reynolds needed a blood transfusion.
Excuse me, may I go into that room, please?
Next year, revenue growth again will be a focus. Top priority.
Thank you for giving me blood.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for saving my life.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own. After a car accident, Linda Davis needed CPR. Bill Hamilton needed temporary shelter when a fire destroyed his home. During an operation, Haley Reynolds needed a blood transfusion.
Excuse me, may I go into Thank you for giving me blood.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for saving my life.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own.